welcome to Sri on Wheels. I'm very very happy and very very proud because मसँग को हुनुहुन्छ भने मलाई सदैव माया गर्ने सपोर्ट गर्ने हाम्रो नेपालको बिजनेस इन्डस्ट्रीको शान one and only Nirvana Chaudhary. Nirvana, thank you so much for taking all the time. हामी के गर्छौँ basically तिम्रो यो सानो गाडीमा एकछिन घुम्छौँ and we're going to talk something that we have never ever spoken ever.
Sure.
On the camera. Okay?
Sure, looking forward to it. Please.
So Nirvana, thank you so much for taking out your time, right?
It's always a pleasure.
नहीं अब के भन्ने अब you are an consulate, हैन? अब everybody knows you as an entrepreneur, everybody knows you as a business tycoon, everybody knows you also as a former squash player, so many things. National former squash player. कतिवटा इन्टरभ्यू हामीले देखाएको छौँ you are a very ardent father, right? कतिवटा इन्टरभ्यू हामीले देखाएको छौँ you are a very good husband. तर I'm sure अहिलेसम्म कुनै पनि इन्टरभ्यूमा अथवा when you chat on a live अहिलेको live when you chat on a national television, your love for cars, your love for traveling, right? People know your love for nature, you have and so many trekkings. When was the first time you ever drove?
First time I drove is a very tricky question. You know, we guys, we grew up in a family, in a joint family where everyone, Kaka, especially my youngest Kaka, Arun Kaka, he just absolutely loved and was obsessed with cars. Okay? So we grew up in that household, you know.
Okay.
I clearly remember at a very, very young age, we used to be at the age of 6, 7, we wanted to sit in our father's or our uncle's lap while they were driving a car. Yeah.
Just to steer.
Yeah, just to steer.
Wow.
That feeling you got, right? But then we were so obsessed with cars that, you know, between me, Rahul, Varun, we used to always have this competition that who gets to sit in the front and whose car is what. So every time a new car came in home, you know, we used to be waiting at the door saying, okay, that's mine. So one of us had to go first. So, you know, grew up in a household where cars always been really.
I had this opportunity. मलाई त्यो एउटा अवसर आएको थियो when I went to Chiton, वहाँको त्यो CUG मा जाँदाखेरि your father's first car भनेर राखेको रहेछ त्यो. Right?
Not first, but one of his first.
One of his first.
I'm still trying to find his first, second.
अनि भन्नाले त्यो अहिलेसम्म पनि you guys still have some के भन्छ empathy towards the first machine.
Not empathy, it's sentimental value, you know, and to us after a period of time, I guess, you know, it becomes priceless, you know, because a car, at least in our family, is so close to your day-to-day life, to your way of life, to your lifestyle, that, you know, you're associated with the car you are driving in. Talks about your state of mind at that time. So probably when growing up, I had a semi-sports car, so maybe that's the kind of mindset I was in. Then, you know, I was more into luxury sedans and now a luxury SUV. So it also demonstrates your state of mind that you're in at that particular age, right?
Right. Now talking about luxury SUV, let me confide. It's the first time I ever on a Range Rover, and it's my privilege and honor to be on an autobiography Range Rover. You've been one and only, right? So why this Range Rover autobiography?
Well, you know, everyone in my family, I'm sure you remember, you know, when my father in the 80s, early 80s, he couldn't afford a Range Rover. So what he did was he asked, it is in his autobiography as well, about Darwale Mayako Gadi, it would be, you know, the duty would be less. So he wanted to get a Range Rover, the old 1979 Range Rover. And because he did not have money of it, he requested Dhirendra Sarkar to, you know, use it and buy it. And after a few years, he will buy it at a much more reasonable price. So that's the kind of obsession we have with Range Rover, Land Rover, the parent company, right? I think Land Rover as a car company is the epitome of a car that has the top-notch performance when it comes to your engine or your car stability, when it comes to comfort, luxury,
Right.
and they've just taken it one notch higher and higher every year. Okay, so even today, I think in my family there are about 6 Range Rovers.
Right.
I mean, every year we try to upgrade and do it. One of my first cars, where I actually, when I got promoted in the group and was made the managing director, I was also gifted a Range Rover. You know, so that became like, wow.
Okay.
You know, it came something with that position as well.
अनि यो काठमाडौँको रोडलाई यसले उ गर्छ जस्टिफाई गर्छ यसको जुन चाहिँ यसको अब दिस इज कति 5 लिटर समथिङ
This is this is not a 5. This is a V8. You know, it's over a 520 horsepower car. It's a 4-liter engine.
Okay.
But the beauty about this car is, so you know, my brother's got the new Range Rover Sport. Now, I think that really relates to the person he is as well. You know, he likes driving on his own, and he takes it all across outside Kathmandu, inside Kathmandu. He travels a lot in it in his hotel projects. Me, I'm more traveling within Kathmandu, and this car is particularly built for people who want to sit in the back.
Hey, okay.
Now, never in my life have I ever sat in the back seat. I always like to sit in the front, or I love driving.
All right.
And to me, earlier driving was, you know, it was a adrenaline rush. You know, when you're growing up, you know, you could look at the person sitting next to you and still miss things by inches.
I can still make it out the way you said it. That's the people
right.
who love
I don't
driving,
drive like that in front of my kids, just to be a good example.
Yeah.
But you know, for me, this car also sort of talks about the state I am, the phase I am in my life right now.
Right.
And the phase I am in, that, you know, I think this is probably the most luxurious car to be riding in terms of comfort. I mean, you've got, it's an extended wheelbase.
Okay.
So that means that you've got a full, you know, leg supporter that comes up. You've got these 12 features of massage from hot stone massage. But apart from that, I think I'm in a state where I rather, more than driving, I like sitting behind, you know, reflecting on life, you know, seeing things, and I make sure that every time I'm in the car, my music is playing continuously.
कस्तो खाली म्युजिक बढी चल्छ त्यसमा
मलाई you know, I've grown up with heavy soft rock, Aerosmith, Metallica, Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd, and then I really graduated to deep house, right? But I think last 2 years, 3 years, the way Nepali music has evolved, you know, the way the artists have come up, I've just been obsessed, and I've been so proud of
talented, eh?
Oh yeah, so proud of the talent. So I love listening to new music by a very, very dear friend of mine, Sushant Kesi. I think he's someone who is taking the Nepali music to the next level. You know, someone who's studying at University of Berkeley, the best music school in the world. So he really understands the technicalities of music and how he sort of brings that about in different genres altogether.
त्यो चाहिँ मलाई एकदम खुसी लाग्यो, like being where you are, you're still trying to promote Nepali music, and I think we should all do, right? And you yourself, you're also a musician.
I try to be.
I know.
You know, you have to vent your, channelize your creativity somewhere, right? So while growing up, I loved music. I loved art. I didn't even know I was going to get into business.
Okay.
So I think that...
What do you know you didn't know?
I mean, I never knew... No,
Of course you knew you were going to be getting
well, you know, my father always told three of us that whatever you guys decide to do, be the best at it.
Okay.
So, you know, when you are 10, 12 years old, you're seeing a successful entrepreneur build his empire, but you're like, maybe that's not for me.
Okay.
You know, but also being the eldest in my generation, you also feel, okay, maybe that statement by my father is not applicable to me, you know, or even to my brothers, because we are so inspired by him.
Yeah, true.
That we are like, you know...
I feel every Nepali who wants to aspire into business field is inspired by your father. He's a big inspiration.
He's a big inspiration, yeah.
Okay, now you said that your kaka played more role, right? You into getting into cars and all. So you personally, how far have you driven? Or like किन त यति वर्ल्डमा ट्राभल गरेको so what would be the okay I'll ask you one by one गरौँ
Right.
worst ever experience on road
Worst ever experience on road? I don't know. You know, worst ever experiences road is always introspection in a sense that now that I think about how I used to drive 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and I'm like, my God, how could I drive like that? You know, I wouldn't say recklessly. I never was a reckless driver, but that fast, that speed, that, you know, drifting and all of that. And today you think about it, you're like, that was pretty childish. But then again, that was a phase, right?
That you can see every day.
Yeah. And I guess that's because of the traffic and, you know, the congestion as well. Sometimes it's good to just sit behind and use that time for doing much more productive things, right?
Okay, next question. Most memorable?
Most memorable experience has definitely been when I was 19 and a half, 20. I was Mabakar. I just returned back from my schooling. Okay? And everyone was leaving for US and America for further education. Malai say this was in the year 2000, right? 2001. This was the peak of the Maoist war, okay? The war that was going on. And I was called back to Nepal. Now, being someone who has always studied in boarding schools outside and now has come back, he's not seeing a war that is gone, but he's seeing opportunity that's coming, right? So I remember taking this trip. I went all the way to Mahendranagar, Nepalganj, and I drove from Mechi to Mahakali.
Really?
Yeah.
That's you?
On the road. And it got... I saw parts of Nepal which I think really changed my perception towards this country. Really reiterated the feeling and that I have towards the country in terms of the potential we had, in terms of the beauty that has been bestowed upon us. I mean, we think Kathmandu is beautiful. It's nowhere close to any direction you go 20 minutes, you know what real Nepal is. So I think that definitely has been the most memorable moment, because there were times when, you know, we used to do 2-3 cities a day. Young, finish a city, go to the next city, you know, do the work again. By night time, head to another city. And you saw different facets, different parts of Nepal. Like I remember there was a time while I was driving, we had gone to Tansin, Palpa. I just fell in love with Tansin. And you know, the mist coming in the morning while we were driving through, and we finished work. And we said, I would love to stay here, but if I stayed here even for a few more minutes, I would just stay another 1 or 2 days and we'd lose time. So we just decided to leave the same day after lunch. And after a few hours, there was a massive bomb that exploded in, you know, Tansin Square, in the market, right? And we were lucky, but at the same time, those were the difficult times which our country was going through. But you know, sometimes so is life. But definitely, my Mechi to Mahakali trip during the peak of the civil war was the most memorable one.
Okay, now is there a like disastrous travel, like accident त नभनौँ तर केही न केही नसोचेको हुन्छ नि कहिले कहिले बाटोमा यस्तो कुनै छ?
Touch wood, not so far.
Okay.
Like I said,
and you know what? You can actually touch wood, eh? Mind me, this is a Range Rover, so you can actually touch wood.
Actually, you know, we were always the batsa dekhi nahi ki, you know, Kaka and all used to drive fast, and you know, I think the way why we all got obsessed with cars is we got Suzuki before even Maruti was born in India.
Okay.
You know, so imagine you see it right in front, right? A Suzuki. So I think at young age, my father...
You're still trying to promote one of the Kaka's product.
Well, it's there. I think out of the 6 cars, 5 of them are Suzuki's. Right? So, what I'm trying to tell you is that the young age, you know, you're so close to the first business you really bring in. And I think that's what really got them into cars and all of that. Right. And since then, we've all obviously graduated.
What about bikes? Were you ever drawn toward bikes?
So we were always told from beginning, and it was very clear to us, the difference between driving rash and driving fast. Driving recklessly and being in control of what you are. And the fact that you could be in control of your car, but the person coming towards you might not be. So we've always grown up driving or being behind the wheels with that mindset, and that's why I guess luckily we've not had any major problems.
Or is it your mom never wanted you to ride a bike?
So yeah, so that being the reason, we were never allowed to sit in a bike. Like frankly speaking, I have sat in a bike once or twice for a minute or two, but we were always told, it's not safe and all of that.
Okay.
But what I thoroughly enjoy is my, I have two ATVs at home.
You do?
I do. It's a Polaris. It's a P550 and a Polaris 430.
Oh, I think we need to do a feature on that.
Another show on that.
Another show.
It's an open quad bike, and it's beautiful. And I think for Nepal Kolai.
And it's here in Kathmandu.
It's at my home
Wow.
It's my home in Kathmandu. So what I do is, sometimes when I'm traveling from, again, one of the most memorable drives has been for me is, so I really enjoy trekking, right? So what I do is that I send the ATVs in the trucks to Pokhara, and we fly there, and it's right there at the airport. And from the airport, we take it to the entire Mustang Valley. Go to Marfa, Jomsom, Muktinath in the ATVs, right? So we got two friends come in. They come in their dirt bikes, and it is a phenomenal experience. Just going through that entire journey, seeing the beauty of magnificence of our country. There's a different charm of seeing that in a ATV. So yeah, that's the closest I've gone to and ridden in a bike.
So how often, you have two beautiful, adorable kids. So how often do you take them for a drive?
So I made a rule that Saturdays I drive on my own.
Okay.
And what I've realized is, Paila, when I was, even this or my previous car was a Range Rover Vogue, right? And this is the autobiography. I realized that, Paila, that, if I drove, there were so many things going on in my mind, right? That my wife was like, please, don't drive. Your mind's in too many places. But today, I find driving so meditative because I'm focusing, I'm in control, I'm focusing on the drive, enjoying the drive, enjoying this journey. And I think it's got to do so much about life as well. When we are multitasking and doing so many things, but we're not really enjoying that one thing, finishing it and then moving to the rest.
Wow, so well said.
So I've started to enjoy driving. I think my son, jokingly, his uncles and all call him Tufani Chaudhary. And he's 2 years old, okay? That guy, trying to tell you why. He's 2 years old and I touch wood again.
And you're the only one in Nepal, I think, who went touch wood while driving.
He has these bikes, he's obsessed with bikes and cars and those toy cars, but the way he has control over it, the way he rides it. I mean, he's riding inside our home, missing walls and chairs by inches, and he knows it. He's doing it so flawlessly, like he's in control. So, I always, every time he's about to hit a wall, I'm like closing my eyes, but he's not. He's just gone through it, So I know.
I think that's instinctively, instinct.
He doesn't want anything. He just wants cars, and he knows all the cars' names. And every time
2 years old.
2 years old, believe it or not.
Oh.
His toy, every time I meet him, he doesn't say Papa, he says BMW. Right? Every time I come, he doesn't say Papa's come. He says Papa's blue Range Rover's come. So he's someone amazing, who I feel is...
Actually, this is one of the reasons your license drive. It's also it's not that I have passion, I have this affiliation towards vehicles. I can logo and I think it's instilled,
Yeah, absolutely.
If somebody would ask me what next dream car, probably I would say this that I'm right now sitting in, Range Rover Autobiography. Now what next? Urus?
I don't know. I guess it'll be probably the state of mind I'm with when I want the new car.
Okay.
You know, I am definitely in a state of mind where I want. I'm very happy with this car. You know, I'm not too. You know, I'm so in love with this car that I'll not feel right.
Okay.
It'll not feel right getting another one.
Okay.
I still have to do justice to this one, but I think very soon I want to be able to get a much more faster car. But again, you know, you have to see where you are. You know, for the roads of Nepal, where we are today, you know, I think this is a beautiful car because the roads are still not. You cannot buy a Lamborghini or a Bentley Continental GT or a Ferrari, right? You have to be practical about
यो
it.
पर्सेप्सन होइन अब ठुलो गाडी जसको चलाउन सजिलो कि सानो गाडी चलाउन सजिलो सी देयर आर टु डिबेट के ठुलो गाडी चलाउन सजिलो हुन्छ कसैले होइन सानो रोड्स आर सो न्यारो त्यो सानो गाडी चलाउन सजिलो हुन्छ भन्छ व्हाट्स टु से अन दैट
It's again, I can relate it to life. You look at a small car. It's easier to maneuver in smaller parts and smaller gullies and all, right? The bigger car, while it'll be challenging to do it, but for longer drive, you have that engine that opens up and that comfort and that speed
So
and that
have you
reliability.
taken this baby outside the valley?
Oh yeah, of course. What's the point of having?
What's the सम्बन्ध टाढा गएको कहाँ यसमा?
I travel to Nawalparasi. I'm a CG Industrial Park quite a lot. This is a hybrid, right? So electric's off, and now the biofuel is kicked in. So you can feel a different sound of the engine now.
Yeah.
So for me, again, I'll answer your question. But for me, one of the reasons I love this car was it was a hybrid, right?
Okay.
And within the valley, you know, with one charge of electric, I can go about 35 kilometers. That means I can easily do home, office, maybe one more place and back without putting any fuel. And sometimes when I'm going far, the range of the electric goes beyond, right? So so I've gone furthest is Nawalparasi. I've done a few times. So it just started to rain so heavily, and I was driving, and suddenly in a distance I saw the police checkpoint. And it was me and two of my colleagues, and my driver was there, right? And my driver, I had two drivers. One of them is with me for 15 years, and the current one's been with me for 15 years. So I've had two drivers been with me for long. So they become so part of you and take like your own family. So anyway, I was driving, and I was driving fast. You know,
just to pani pare
yeah. So त्यो अब संयुद्धको बेलामा they must be having some forest जङ्गलहरूको बीचमा some trackers or whatever, and I was ripping at 120 130 you know, and then suddenly अलिकति अगाडि they stopped me. A couple of police, like 3-4 police were on the guns like that, stopped me. So they probably thought, you know, I could be त्यो बेला they could have shot me saying that encounter curfew basically encounter ma pani parako belama. I mean, come on, the people in the police and army are so angry and upset and frustrated, you know. There's a war going on, and here are these guys sitting in comfortable car, and here we are, you know, outside in the rain doing that. And I stopped, right? And I'm like, I was 20 years old that time, 21.
Oh, that was 30 years back.
Yeah, and really, your maths is pretty. You need to fix on your maths, my friend. So then they stop me, and then they come, and they go to tell the pani parathin. They said open the window, right? So they just opened iti matra khali. Kinner pani parathin, so the pani pura aira thyo. But I think the cops got really upset that khali iti matra khole bhanera. And they put the gun inside, and I think I must have learned all the Nepali gali during that time. I was looking at my friend like, what does that even mean, you know? You know, he was like abusing, like, man, this is, I've never heard such innovative
ways of
slangs in Nepali
expressions.
So, and one came, the second one came right now, and they literally were saying that, you know, Timela 8 Hogan, so this, that, whatever. ठोकिन्छ means with the gun, right?
बर्बाद हुन्छ ठोक्यो भने हाम्रो मैले इन्टरभ्यू लिनु पाउँदैन
And
अनि
then,
म रेन्ज रोभरमा बस्दा
luckily what happened was that my driver quickly had seen this commotion and he ran like probably another 50 meters. He ran towards towards their chief, and luckily he showed them our company's ID, and said, "Please come quickly." If he hadn't come,
no interview.
Fair interview, man. It was so that I think is one drive I remember. After that, I was like, I'm not driving. I'm sitting back, and that 30 kilometer took us like an hour to get.
I don't know whether people know or not, that amongst all the accolades that that you have or bestowed upon you, you have an amazing sense of humor. I mean, you're still restricted. You're still rigid. I know your camera off when I know you'll start saying. You have amazing sense of humor, dude.
Really?
Sachi भने in spite of a hectic schedule.
What sense of humor got to do with schedule?
And schedule you're so stressed up, so you camera
like I said, you need to.
I'm sure you must have laughed with the
Yeah,
more than scared that you must have.
No, we looked at each other for the few seconds saying,
yeah,
but after that we were like, let's not break any rules now.
I thought you really do have amazing sense of humor, and you have amazing sense of friendship, and I thank you for everything that you've always supported me. And once again, thank you so much, Nirvana, for taking out your time.
Thank you so much. It's always been a pleasure to meet you. Like I said, you can only understand another vibe or another positivity if you in your heart are positive and you got the right vibe, right? So I think it's you who is full of positivity. It's you who is full of life. It's you who is celebrating every moment. And I guess, a little bit of spillover effects comes in as well.
Wow.